City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 20th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, it's 21 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, 22 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news right now. It's another day where we don't know when the O-Train service will resume, but we get the details and the very latest from City News reporter Chris Curries.
There are extra replacement buses in the queue today during peak periods. OC Transpo now allocating 36. They had 32 yesterday afternoon and 28 in the morning. This is to hopefully alleviate some wait times for commuters. As for the train inspections, they are ongoing, which is why we still don't have a timeline as to when the full line will be able to relaunch. Only 9 of the train's axles have been fully inspected, but if it's anything like what the union is suggesting, OC Transpo out of their depth.
How many engineers, consultants is this city and these corporations going to be using before this can be what the key issue is and what's targeted for these trains?
Jacques Racine with ATU 279 says it's mind-blowing and baffling, and there's currently a stack of axles just sitting in a corner of the maintenance yard. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, several Ontario municipalities say the time that paramedics spend waiting in hospital emergency rooms to transfer patients has skyrocketed. That means they are not available to respond to calls for help. In the Waterloo region, they're reporting the amount of times that no ambulances were available. That was up about 571% from 2021 to 2022. Now, some emergency officials and community leaders say the lack of publicity available, that the provincial information makes it hard to access the scope of the problem, and they want the province to change that as soon as possible. Now, taking a look at your weather for today, here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
The clouds will increase as we work through the day. Most of the wet weather, though, arrives very late tonight, overnight, and the rain could be at times heavy for Friday with showers and storms. And guaranteed high today, 28 will feel like 33, 17 for the low, 24 degrees tomorrow. For the weekend, periods of light rain Saturday should be dry most of Sunday, a high near 28, and heads up hot and humid most of next week. For today, the guaranteed high, 28.
23 degrees right now, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 28. It's 22 in Smiths Falls. Now, we're awaiting an update today on the worst wildfire season ever recorded in the country. This as other parts of the world grapple with the effects of climate change this summer. City's Caitlin Lee joins us now with the latest ahead of that announcement.
Yes, 888 wildfires currently burning across Canada, 555 out of control in southeastern BC. More evacuation orders. Air quality is still a major concern. Experts saying a 9-year-old boy in Canada's most western province died after his asthma was made worse by the smoke from wildfires. In Greece, unrelenting dry and hot conditions have also intensified wildfires. Firefighters working around the clock to preserve homes, facilities, and forests around the capital of Athens, where it's expected to reach 44 degrees Celsius by the end of the week. And in the U.S., more than 1,500 record high temperatures. Death Valley, California, reaching 128 degrees Fahrenheit or 53 degrees Celsius this week. ABC's chief meteorologist Ginger Z.
New Orleans on track to their hottest summer to date. And then Roswell, New Mexico, more 110 plus days than they have ever seen in recorded history. It's not just the air, but the water around the world. More than 40% of the world's oceans in a marine heat wave.
Experts agree this will most certainly be the warmest year on record. An update on the wildfire situation in Canada is expected at 11 o'clock this morning. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news. Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Yes, that is correct. This is the Sam Laprade Show. Sans the Sam Laprade part of the show. Sam is off for the next couple of weeks. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, joining you all this week, all next week. Thanks so much for spending some time with us today here on City News. And, of course, those of you watching on Rogers Television. Really appreciate it. Got some more tickets to give away. Let's start off with some good news, right? The Kempville Live Music Festival kicking off tonight, as a matter of fact, kicking off today. Some great acts, including Colin James, Blue Rodeo, and Melissa Etheridge. Wake Up with Rob Snow gave away a couple of tickets today. And, of course, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as well, just as we have been doing. He has tickets to see Blue Rodeo. We have some tickets to see headliner Melissa Etheridge on July 22nd. That is this Saturday. Also on that schedule on Saturday is Dawn Tyler Watson, another one of my favorites. If you've never seen Dawn Tyler Watson and her band, fantastic. So make sure you stay tuned throughout the morning into the afternoon, because we go right till 1 p.m. We'll be giving away those tickets at some point. I just got a text from my good friend Rob Snow. And he asked me to perhaps listen to what Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, is suggesting. So he's at a press conference. He's making a number of different suggestions, and one of them may surprise our listeners. Let's just listen in. And you know what? I think a lot of us are going to agree what we hear here, for the most part. But he comes up with some very, well, you'd probably call it NDP-like suggestions. Let's listen in.
Well, we know that people are feeling this across the country, and people are feeling this here in Windsor. I've spoken to people. They're saying, what do we do? The mortgage rates or the interest rates have gone up so quickly and so rapidly in such a short period of time. We are struggling right now. And I gave that example. If you were a family in the past couple of years that has a 25-year variable mortgage, you're looking at your mortgage payments and seeing an increase of over $1,700. How is a family supposed to come up with an additional $1,700 when grocery prices are up, when gas prices are up, when everything is more expensive? What are families to do? And the relief offered by the Liberals is just not good enough. And it's not surprisingly, because they're not in connect. They're out of touch with what people are really going through. And the Conservatives are not proposing any solutions immediately right now to give people relief. They don't care. They're not actually talking about that. We're talking about what we can do right now to give people relief. There's a lot of countries that are looking at real solutions to give people a bit of break who are struggling with the cost of the mortgage. We want to see those aggressive steps being taken here in Canada. Steps like Spain has taken to force banks to give lower interest rates to families that are struggling. Like nice. Portugal has put in a subsidy for people that can't pay their mortgage right now. We need to see some aggressive measures put in place to give people some relief, to give people a break.
Subsidizing people's mortgages. I'm all on board with forcing the interest rates down for struggling families who own homes. I mean, as he said, that 25-year mortgage, the $1,700. I think it was on the Talkback Hour with David Smith a couple of days ago. He spoke with somebody whose mortgage went from $2,200 a month to $3,800 a month because of rising interest rates. But subsidizing mortgages, man, that I don't know what the qualification would be for that. That would be very interesting to see. He said Portugal. I'm gonna look into that. I wonder what the subsidies are like. I wonder what the criteria is in Portugal for helping subsidize somebody that is a struggling household. And we do know when governments get involved in financing things like that, some people take advantage. We've seen that with, and I'm not saying, obviously, not even close to the majority, a very small minority, but people taking advantage during COVID with some of the help through things like CERB, some of the help the government implemented. I wonder if that, that could come up as an issue as well. Anyway, I'll look further into that. I thank my good friend Rob Snow for sending that along. And speaking of that, when it comes to rising prices, he was talking about mortgages and interest rate and rising home prices for homeowners. What about renters? The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives has come out with a report. It says renters need to earn, get this, $26.68 an hour to be able to reasonably afford to rent a one-bedroom apartment in Ottawa. $26.68. I almost wish this was a call-in show. For those of you that are, making minimum wage or just above minimum wage, I mean, how are you doing it? How are you doing it? I know when I was young, but we're not just talking about young people, but when I was young and moved out, I moved in with a bunch of friends. There were 5 of us that lived in a 4-bedroom home, and the homeowner actually had the 5th bedroom, which was sort of the basement. So she had the basement suite. But, I was, 17, 18 years old. There's not a lot of 25, 26, 34-year-old, 35-year-olds and so on that are making, above minimum wage, that just above minimum wage or in and around there that want a rooming house style of living, right? Renters need to earn an average of $32.37 an hour to afford to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Ottawa. And you're thinking, well, a 2-bedroom is 2 people. No, not necessarily. Some people want to live in a 2-bedroom because they want the extra space, one to be perhaps their office and one, as a bedroom, or maybe they want a spare bedroom for when guests come. The report calculated the rental wage for an apartment in Ottawa and across Canada, looking at the hourly wage that would be required to work a 40-hour week and spend no more than 30% of gross income on housing. It goes on to say the rental wage measure provides a clear picture of the relationship between wages and rents because it calculates the hourly wage required to afford rent while working a standard 40-hour week and spending no more than 30% of one's income on housing. In other words, the rental wage is how much people need to earn to pay rent without spending too much of their income on it so they can have, leftover money to, do things like eat. And not all apartments, right, come with everything included. So, you may have to, you're paying for your utilities as well. You've got a cell phone. You've probably got, internet, most certainly. Perhaps, you've got cable. There are a lot of expenses. And maybe you'd like some money to, go out with friends every once in a while. My goodness. Ontario's, by the way, minimum wage is $15.50 an hour. Quebec's minimum wage is $14.25 an hour. Wow. That is the July rent report, by the way, from rentals.ca showed the average cost to rent an apartment in Ottawa in June was $2,146, up 15% from the year before. A 1-bedroom apartment costs $2,003 a month, while a 2-bedroom costs an average of $2,443. If you go to the Gatineau side, which is often, we often see there's a discrepancy, and when I have friends that live on the Gatineau side and work in Ontario because of the cost of housing and rentals is cheaper, and that remains the same. The average cost to rent an apartment in Gatineau was $1,816 a month, up 7.4% from June of last year. A 1-bedroom apartment, $1,712 a month to rent in Gatineau, while a 2-bedroom costs $1,871. Man, oh man. That's a lot of your income just going to live in a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment. What else is in the news? Well, of course, the LRT is in the news. And one of the latest things that everyone's talking about is that OC Transpo is looking into whether passenger wait on the LRT during Blues Fest could have contributed to the bearing problem that shut down the train service in rush hour on Monday. Renee Almakar, Ottawa's general manager of transit services, says one of the tests that they are doing with what they call the instrumented bogey, is going to be simulating load by using sandbags to see if perhaps that was the case. Can you imagine if that is one of the problems? Which doesn't necessarily answer the fact that 2 years ago we had this same problem, and I don't believe load would have been an issue at that point. Anyway, they're looking into that, so that's something else that's going on. David Smith talking about this. Rob Snow on Wake Up with Rob Snow talking about it. The Talkback Hour was the topic of conversation. The latest on this conversation around closing roads with the NCC. It's the Gatineau Park roadways. You may not be aware if you're just tuning into City News, but there's actually a petition. And Rob Snow and David Smith, the two of them had the gentleman that started this, Alakadi. He started a petition, and the petition goes on to say it's got almost 8,500 signatures now. Yeah, almost 8,500 signatures. Petition for the NCC to restore access to the Champlain Parkway, Gatineau Parkway, and Fortune Parkway in Gatineau to pre-pandemic level, so prior to 2020. Goes on to say, in the spring and summer of 2021, starting May 1st, 2021, the NCC closed the Champlain Parkway, Gatineau Parkway, and Lake Fortune Parkway to motor vehicle access except from 1 p.m. to a half an hour after sunset on Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. This meant vehicle access was limited to less than 15% of the time. Meanwhile, cyclists have access 100% of the time. In the spring and summer of 2022, the NCC has a similar, what he goes on to say, discriminatory schedule to last year, with the parkway closed almost 85% of the time starting May 7, 2022. The only difference is that there is a weekend shuttle on Saturdays and Sundays to be launched sometime this summer, which does not solve many of the problems. The shuttle only runs on weekends from June 25th to August 25th and only from 9:10 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. This year, starting May 2nd, after all of his previous efforts, and he and his team, he says all of our previous efforts and exposure in the news, the only changes are access from 8 a.m. to a half hour after sunset on Wednesday and from 12 p.m. to half hour after sunset on Saturday and Sunday. All other times, the parkways are closed, and the shuttle only runs from May 20th and only from 9 a.m. to 4:45 p.m. on weekdays. This has led to inequitable and non-inclusive access that does not respect the needs of the diverse majority of the park users and Canadian society. It goes on to say it is worth mentioning that the electrical scooters that the NCC provided from P2 take... I'm sorry, this is so long. It is worth mentioning that the electrical scooters that the NCC provided from P2 take 8.5 hours nonstop to get from P2 to Champlain Lookout and back, which is an unrealistic demand for a person with a disability. Anyway, if you'd like to look at that, you can find it at change.org. The petition for the NCC to restore access to the Gatineau Park parkways. By the way, Toby Nussbaum has an article on this in the Ottawa Citizen on that and more. Of course, a lot of talk, of course, around the Queen Elizabeth driveway as well. He touches on that, so you can read, the NCC side of the story as well. I would do that for you, but I've already gone over time, so I'm going to take a break. Thank you so much for tuning in again. This is Derek Fage filling in for Sam Laprade. Sam is off for a couple of weeks, and you're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
long way from Nashville, and mama, I tell you that. Performed from Montreal to Boston to Los Angeles. But Toronto, that's my chosen home. Sure, when I'm walking down Yonge Street, I see some funny people who have the nerve to point the finger at me. And grin and smile and whisper. My song was #2 on local radio. Sold 10,000 in Toronto alone. Turned down Ed Sullivan because they asked me to remove my makeup. Wouldn't do American Bandstand because of their segregation policies. I was just being me. Never tried to explain myself to anyone. And besides, none of that to worry, Jackie, because I know I look good. Got a new way of loving, baby. Thought I want to teach it to you.
Jackie Shane was a pioneer transgender soul singer, a central figure in the Toronto R&B scene. She helped shape what we know as the Toronto sound.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, you've called a cab or a friend, and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Sam, as I mentioned off the top, she is off for a couple of weeks, taking a well-deserved vacation. Derek Fage here filling in. Great article I wanted to share with you from the Ottawa Citizen, and our next guest is going to speak on it. Just before we bring him on, just quickly, the headline is critical staff shortages hurt those with developmental disabilities. Just as we've held our government accountable on healthcare staffing for our elderly, we must do the same thing for the developmental services sector. I am joined by the general manager at the Almont Hospital, Al Roberts. Good morning, Al.
Hi, Derek. Nice to be speaking with you. I should clarify, though, I'm not speaking on behalf of the hospital today.
Yes.
I'm a board member with the Ottawa Carleton Association for People with Developmental Disabilities, and really that's the perspective that I bring to the conversation.
Yes, thank you for that, Al. I appreciate that. I should have made that part of my introduction, but you said it better than I did anyway. I could anyway. So first of all, tell us a little bit about the Ottawa Carleton Association for Persons with Developmental Disabilities, Al.
So 50 years ago, it was called the Ottawa Carleton Association for Mental Retardation, and over the years, that name has been replaced with the term developmental disabilities. So it really is people that live in our community that have some sort of developmental disability, whether it's autism, whether it's Down syndrome, whether it's as a result of perhaps some injuries or brain injuries, etc. Many of these people you don't recognize because it doesn't manifest itself physically.
Right.
They may be your neighbors and you chat with them every day and you don't know that they have a developmental disability, whereas others, you could fully recognize it probably because they're doing, for instance, my son Dylan often is wearing headphones. He's very sensitive to hearing issues and sound, and he also, tends to flap his hands, etc. So when we're walking through a mall, people certainly notice that perhaps there is something unique, is
right.
what we like to say about Dylan.
And Al, the big issue here, and again, I'll just reference Peter Homulus's article in the Ottawa Citizen, is the fact that there's also a staffing crisis, right, in the developmental sector. Tell us, like, how significant is that staffing crisis, and of course, what is the impact on individuals that are supported and the staff that support them?
So we operate 20 homes in Ottawa and 7 homes in Cornwall. These are homes where people live, they're residences, but many of the people that live in these homes need a high level of support. So we want them to be as independent as possible, but for some that's not possible. So, activities of daily living, food, day programs, getting out into the community, recreation, all of those things require a certain level of support. And so when you have a home that you have 6, 7 people with a developmental issue living in, you often require 2-to-1 staffing during the day, and at night it would be less when everybody's asleep. But you can imagine what it's like when someone calls in sick to the radio show. Derek, you can still get on the air and make it happen. Right. But if you have 7 people who you need to be helping them with almost everything that they do during that day, it makes for a very precarious situation. And OCAPDD is committed to the health and safety of all the people that live in our residences or attend our day programs. So it really is a significant crisis in the sector, not just in OCAP.
Right.
It's right across the province. And during the pandemic, we saw a lot of initiatives put forward by the Ontario government to address, finding more staff for long-term care. We're seeing that continue right now because it's so necessary. We're seeing it continue in the healthcare sector with nurses and food aides, etc. Yep. And what we're saying is we need to see those same kinds of initiatives to help us recruit staff in order to make sure that our residents and our day program attendees are well looked after as well.
Al, what's the cause of the staff shortage? Is it lack of fair pay and benefits? What do you think is the main reason?
Well, I think it's symptomatic of sort of the pandemic that, many people had jobs during the pandemic, and the pandemic was so stressful that many people in healthcare or many people in long-term care, they rode the pandemic out as best they could, doing the best job they could, and now they're absolutely fried. Right. And so they've gone on to try and find something that perhaps is less stressful, and certainly in the developmental sector, I think we saw a lot of that as well. You can imagine, so Dylan was used to seeing us at least once or twice a week. During the pandemic, there were months where we weren't actually able to go and be with him. Right. We could go and drop food off at his house. We could do things like that, but we couldn't interact with him. So all of his social activity, all of his life, everything revolved around the staff and the other residents in his home. And so you can imagine the burden that takes on staff. So certainly people are leaving the sector because it's so challenging. But the other reason is that, it just seems that every sector is finding it harder and harder to find workers. And governments have done things like, if you would like to work as a personal support worker in long-term care, the government is now looking at ways to pay your tuition and to fast-track you so that you can be gainfully employed in a long-term care facility. And that's fantastic because we need it in long-term care. We need that same kind of incentivization by governments to help people get through the developmental services worker program or the applied behavior modification program or whatever it might be, to help make sure that we have a larger pool of people to draw on.
Yeah. Well said, Al. And I wish I had more time. Unfortunately, I've already gone over here on the news, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome, Derek. Thanks for sharing the story. It's a that these are our most vulnerable citizens.
Agreed.
And they deserve to have the best quality of life we can provide them.
Yeah, and Al, let's have you stay in touch here with City News moving forward, and we can get you back on to see if there's any progress made in the future. Okay.
That would be great. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you very much. That's Al Roberts, General Manager of the Almont Hospital, but representing today on the show the Ottawa Carleton Association for Persons with Developmental Disabilities. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
When an impaired driver killed my brother DJ, my life changed forever. During the pandemic, all of our lives changed, and many of us turned to alcohol and drugs to cope. As life returns to normal, the increase in substance use from COVID has lingered, and some police services report an increase in impaired driving that caused heartbreak and devastation. Now, more than ever, we need your commitment to never drive impaired, and to encourage all of your family and friends to do the same. Together, we can save lives.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Mostly cloudy. Here's what's making news right now. The light rail still down for a third day, but OC Transpo reassuring passengers that they will be putting more R1 replacement buses running between Tunney's and Blair to help alleviate some of that congestion. The latest update from OC Transpo saying 9 trains were inspected, and so far so good, but others need to be inspected as well. That will continue today. Now the O train has been out of service since Monday. Several Ontario municipalities say the time that paramedics spend waiting in hospital emergency rooms to transfer patients has gone up. That means there's also no ambulances available for help. Waterloo Region reporting the amount of time no ambulances were available. That increased by over 500% from 2021 to 2022. Now, this also comes as the head of the NDP, Marit Stiles, was at the Queensway Carleton Hospital this morning talking about healthcare. She was joined by the Kanata by-election candidate, Melissa Cohen-Rad, and the NDP MPP, Joel Harden, all of them calling on the Ford government to address the ER closures, especially the recent ones at the Carleton Place District Memorial Hospital. City News Time, it's 10:35. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage from Rogers TV filling in for Sam. This is a great segue. Just had an excellent conversation with Al Roberts, who is representing the Ottawa Carleton Association for Persons with Developmental Disabilities, talking about staffing and the significant short and long-term impacts on both individuals and staff when it comes to the staffing crisis that the developmental sector is going through at the moment. Well, as you know, that's happening across the board. It doesn't matter what healthcare field, staffing shortages for a number of reasons are happening. And 6 local community health centers are proposing that they can take on some patients and play a big part in solving doctor shortage. I am joined by Susan Obiora. She's the executive director of the Somerset West Community Health Center. Suzanne, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's talk about where this idea stemmed from and how you feel as a group these local community health centers can help with what is everyone has been calling for quite some time now. Suzanne, is a staffing crisis.
Yeah, and right now the province is looking at investment in primary care and team-based care, and they've put forward a commitment to invest close to $60 million, I believe, over the next few years. And so with this opportunity, the 6 community health centers, along with Ottawa Inner City Health, have submitted a proposal to scale up our model and take on an additional 28,000 more people in the city of Ottawa. And it's looking at being able to hire more primary care providers, as well as other healthcare providers, looking to expand our clinic hours, build on our walk-in clinic models, extend our outreach efforts into community spaces, and really provide primary care and all those wraparound healthcare supports to keep people healthy in their community and minimize or reduce individuals going to the emergency department for health issues that can be resolved in a primary care setting.
Yeah, and I imagine a big part of the goal, and we're seeing this with an aging population, is that, people need certain types of care, but they want to remain in home. And I think there's perhaps a myth that how costly it is, but if you compare to what it costs to put somebody to have somebody come to the emergency room, or somebody ends up having to go into a home of some kind, and the cost of sending somebody out to somebody's home to help them, Suzanne, I imagine you've probably seen this, that it's actually probably more affordable, wouldn't it be?
It absolutely is, and the research and data has shown, has demonstrated that. Community health centers have been proven to be cost-effective healthcare models. The research shows that despite community health centers serving a population that tends to be 70% more complex than the average Ontarian, individuals who are served by our centers are going to the emergency room less often. They have shorter lengths of stay when in the hospital and are less likely to be readmitted in hospital. And so much of the data has shown that this model actually saves the province between $20 and $30 million in healthcare costs each year.
So
and
why
we're providing the right care at the right time,
right?
When individuals need it, and really focused on health promotion and chronic disease or health management.
Yeah, and I guess prevention, of course, is a part of that too, right? If you can meet with people sooner rather than later and get into their homes and find out what the needs are, you may prevent some health issues down the road. Why do you think? So what's the reluctance? I mean, we have the data, the research has been done. We've come out with many studies. We've talked about this on City News. Why the reluctance from the province to perhaps try to change the way we approach the health care of anybody, let alone just our aging population?
I think the province is recognizing the importance and the need in investing in primary care. And the province is recognizing the need to invest in team-based care. So those wraparound support to support a family physician or a nurse practitioner. And the time is now. With this upcoming investment, what the 6 community health centers in Ottawa Inner City Health are saying is we are part of the solution to improving care in our community.
So are you encouraged then that we're going in the right direction, that this idea alone is getting traction, it's being listened to?
It's encouraging to see these provincial investments. And what we're trying to amplify at this time is a well-proven model, a proven track record of being able to implement large-scale healthcare services within communities and across the region. And the time is now to scale up in this model, recognizing, the significant healthcare crises that we're all living through.
Do we have estimates on how many people in Ottawa don't have a primary caregiver?
Yeah, so we've learned that within the greater Ottawa area that extends to suburban and rural areas, there's close to 130,000 people in the city that do not have a primary care provider, which translates into delays in receiving primary care and increases the burden on the hospitals and the emergency department to address health issues that really need to be addressed in a community setting. Within the urban core of Ottawa, there's over 65,000 people who do. What we've put forward is a proposal to take on 28,000 of those people.
And I imagine that means obviously collaboration for sure, but probably the hiring of more healthcare professionals as well, right?
Well, this is very much, when we talk about scaling up our model, it's to hire more primary care and healthcare providers. So it's the recruitment of healthcare staff, the retention of staff, as well as the expansion and scaling up of our programs and services. And that's not only through the primary clinics. We're mindful that, for many it's difficult to go into a primary care setting. So outreach to priority populations is a big part of our model, meeting people where they are at.
Right.
And then providing, a variety of health and social services to address, the whole needs of an individual. It's a big part of our model, recognizing that, there are many issues that impact someone's health beyond the medical issue at hand. And we're well positioned to address issues, whether it relates to housing, access to healthy food, living through crisis, the need of a social worker, support with your taxes. It's that really whole person approach to keeping someone well and healthy.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it's an exceptional model. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, everything you've described, sounds like really the perfect model, and it's worked in so many other places. I'm encouraged, that you feel that that the province is moving in the right direction as far as this is concerned. Really appreciate the time today, Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks very much for the call.
It's a pleasure. That's Suzanne Obiora. She is the executive director of the Somerset West Community Health Center. Coming up next, we're going to be talking a little finances, planning for when a couple gets married, or of course, perhaps remains, in the event that you're a common law partner. There are financial things that you should be looking at, and our next guest is going to help us with just that. We'll be back with more here on the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage filling in. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
I did it. I need it.
The hero gave it.
And I am alive.
As an organ donor, you can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others. Please go to our website. Pledge a gift of life. You'll be glad you did.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
$6,423 missing threads.
One for every hate-fueled protest and social post.
From just the first 3 months of 2023.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam off for a couple of weeks. We're going to be talking about financial planning, in particular for when a couple gets married. Perhaps, even in the event that you become common law partners. Here to break it down for us, I am joined by wealth advisor at Scotia Wealth Management, Douglas Lai. Good morning, Douglas.
Morning, Derek.
Good morning. This is an important conversation, Douglas, because when planning for when you're in a marriage, I imagine common law partners. Are there differences between those two, Douglas, that people should be aware of? First of all,
there would be.
Okay.
And these are wide-spanning topics that we might not be able to cover, comprehensively in detail, but I thought today we could focus on a few items and tips and tricks that I encounter often from clients that we work with in the Ottawa area.
Okay. Let's start off with something that I think a lot of people perhaps are uncomfortable with to have a discussion about, but important, and that is, a prenuptial agreement or a cohabitation agreement. I imagine they're becoming more commonplace. Let's make that our starting point.
You're absolutely right, Derek, where they are becoming more commonplace these days. And again, the terms are prenuptial agreement and cohabitation agreement, more in the event of common law partnerships.
Okay.
I realize there's a stigma around these agreements overall, and it's not something that you normally think of, call it separating when you enter a marriage, for example, but these are written agreements meant to protect both parties in the event a relationship ends. So they are truly important documents to consider. And in terms of what you would envision in that discussion, it could frame from assets, whether it be financial or property related. It would encompass even debts.
Okay.
So think mortgages, lines of credit, and it could even actually encompass income details as well in terms of income support, as an example.
I see. Okay, so let's talk, you mentioned assets, property. Let's talk about the matrimonial home. Tell us a little bit more about that and things that people should be aware of.
Well, the matrimonial home is usually one of the largest assets in a relationship. And I thought I'd give some tidbits about the matrimonial home, especially when you're entering into, let's say, a marriage, okay? So in Ontario, property acquired during a marriage must be split equally when a marriage ends for any reason, and that includes the family home, all right? So that's really important for your listeners to know. And for a property that you own before the marriage, any increase in value needs to be divided equally upon a separation. So the key words being increase in value, and that would again apply to the family home. So I thought what would be kind of the key highlight here is over and above that, you must share the full value of the family home, even if one or of you, for example, owned the home even before you got married.
Okay.
You received it as a gift or inherited it. So there's obviously very unique rulings about the matrimonial home that I thought your listeners should be aware of if they're kind of entering that stage of marriage, for example.
And then, so in the case of if somebody owned the home before you got married, that's probably important, part of that prenuptial agreement, right?
Those two would tie together, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk income splitting, especially if there happens to be a discrepancy in income. Break that down for us.
So this is a really common example of clients in the Ottawa area where you might have a higher income earner and a lower income earner. So income splitting, to your point, Derek, is the practice of having the higher earning spouse actually, in a sense, transfer part of that income to the lower earning spouse so that they end up with, call it, similar income levels specifically for tax purposes.
Okay.
And I thought what might be a useful tool for your listeners to know is about a spousal RRSP in particular.
Okay, yeah, tell us about that.
Well, many of your listeners are probably familiar with a traditional RRSP. A spousal RRSP is similar, but kind of with a twist. It allows you to shift investable assets from one spouse to another, so it is still an investment vehicle. But maybe I'll give you an example where I distinguish between the contributions and withdrawals when you're looking at a spousal RSP. So let's say we have two spouses, spouse one and spouse two.
Okay.
Spouse one earns a higher income, spouse two earns a lower income.
Okay.
Well, actually, spouse one, who has the higher income, can contribute into spouse two's spousal RSP. And so why might they want to do that? Well, now you have spouse two, who has the lower income, building up a bit of an asset base, but spouse one will still benefit from an immediate tax deduction for that spousal RSP contribution so that they can reduce their higher income.
I see. So what happens then upon withdrawal?
You hit the nail on the head, right? So spoke about the contribution side. Now fast forward to the withdrawal, you can envision the investments and investable assets are now in spouse two's name, being the lower income earner.
Right.
And so any future withdrawals that may be taxable, for example, they're now in the lower income spouse's name.
I see. Okay. Something else you wanted to touch on with the income splitting is a spousal loan. What do you mean by that?
Idea. Yeah, very similar idea, where you provide a loan to the lower income earning spouse, and again, the result would be you're basically shifting investable assets to the lower income earning spouse's name. So in general, for your listeners to kind of take away as a rule of thumb, you want to have the taxable investments, per se, held by the lower income earning spouse. And then, for example, if you have a higher income earning spouse, that individual could pay more of the household expenses, as an example.
Okay, I see. Let's move on to wills and powers of attorney, and those are two very important things that I think a lot of people take too long to get to this kind of conversation, but incredibly important as well. Douglas.
it is a very important topic, especially when you think of a marriage and how certain dynamics can change, right? So in particular, what I want to highlight to listeners is if you have a tax-free savings account, when it comes to estate planning in particular, you should know the differences between beneficiaries and a successor holder. Okay. Because those are going to be different.
Okay. What does that mean?
If you have a spouse that, for example, you wish to inherit your tax-free savings account funds or TFSA funds, should anything happen to you, you might want to consider a successor holder designation. And I distinguish these two because they sometimes get blended together.
Okay.
When you have a spouse listed as a successor holder, it allows the surviving spouse, upon, call it any estate event, to then combine the value of both the departing spouse's, if you will, tax-free savings account, together with the surviving spouse's existing tax-free savings account. So you kind of combine those together, and it doesn't encroach on any previous TFSA or tax-free savings account contribution limits. All right, so I know that was pretty packed in there.
Yeah.
But the term is successor holder, and if you have a TFSA and you have a partner in the mix, you might want to dig a little deeper into that.
Okay. I just have 60 seconds left here. I just want to very quickly touch on planning for marriage breakdown. If unfortunately it comes to that, what should be part of that plan?
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I know we're short on time, but I think one of the biggest recommendations, get your team of professionals around you and updated with your scenario, right? Okay. You want your lawyer, accountant, even your financial planner to make sure that they're apprised of, your new circumstances and making sure you're in good shape going forward, okay? With respect to the estate planning, and to go back to wills, powers of attorney, make sure these are up to date, please, because I have seen cases where as simple as beneficiary designations, whether it be that on your accounts or even on insurance policies, sometimes those aren't actually up to date and accurately reflecting post a marriage breakdown or separation. So very, very important things.
Really appreciate the time. This is excellent advice. And, some of the things that, unfortunately, some couples don't have that discussion and they find themselves in trouble in the case of a marriage breakdown. So really appreciate your advice and perspective today, Douglas. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek.
A pleasure. That's Douglas Lai, wealth advisor at Scotia Wealth Management. If you don't have a financial planner, I can't stress enough how important it is. Even, if you don't have a lot to invest, even, early on in your career and beginning of, moving out of home and that kind of thing, it's still so important, right? Even if you have a minimal amount to invest, to speak to a professional like Douglas at Scotia Wealth Management. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
It was my daughter's birthday. She was blowing out the candles on her cake when we heard coming from the TV. So we stopped and listened, and it helped us get to safety. That's why when I think of my daughter's birthday, because now she gets to keep having them.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Rogers Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 20th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. Right now, 25 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy. Feeling more like 31 with the Humidex, 24 in Smith Falls. Here's what's making news right now. The Confederation line remains shut down for a third day. With the details and the very latest, here's City News reporter Chris Curries.
We still don't know when the line will reopen because inspections into the axles are continuing. At last word Wednesday afternoon, there were 9 trains given a clean bill of health, but still many more to go. As for this morning's commute, if you're going to brave the replacement buses, the city says there will be additional ones, 36 in total instead of 28, which will hopefully cut down on some wait times. But back to the axles. Jacques Racine with ATU 279, the bus operators union, says OC Transpo basically flying blind.
They're literally just in a corner of the warehouse, stacked up in a corner, because they do not know what's happening with these axles and bearings.
He goes on to say that a number of their staff are getting ready for layoffs, but it should be management at OC Transpo that gets the axe. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, today, the head of Corrections Canada will be releasing the much-anticipated review into the controversial prison transfer of schoolgirl killer Paul Bernardo will be released today. Now, City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney joins us with the details.
The review results will be unveiled in a news conference with Ann Kelly, Commissioner of Correctional Services. Bernardo's transfer in late May from a maximum to a medium security prison caused political and public backlash. The Public Safety Minister and the Prime Minister called it outrageous, even though their offices were informed weeks before. They say they weren't told, prompting the opposition to call for the Public Safety Minister to be ousted and for the decision to be reversed. Experts have criticized both sides, saying politics should be kept out of an independent justice system. Global reports officials at corrections wanted the transfer to keep a low profile and told the ministers they would give the families of Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey a heads up, but their lawyer says that didn't happen until afterward. Bernardo has been classified a dangerous offender and is in prison indefinitely. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
And Canada opens the FIFA Women's World Cup today. City News' Mike Leach takes a look.
The defending Olympic gold medalist heading to Australia and New Zealand with turmoil swirling. The distractions of a high-profile dispute with Canada Soccer coupled with some key injuries, dampening expectations for this World Cup. But former national team keeper Stephanie Labbé feels the Olympic success can provide a springboard in this tournament.
The Canadian team has always been an underdog. For some reason, that seems to bode us well in the Olympics, and I hope that gives the team confidence and something to prove on the world stage in this tournament as well.
40-year-old Christine Sinclair should provide leadership as captain of this team. Goal scoring, though, is a concern after being shut out in 3 of 5 games in 2023. And one of the top goal scoring threats, Janine Becky, sidelined with an injury. Mike Leach, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester for news. Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
I'm looking for love in all the wrong places. With my foot on the gas just to get away from you. Cause you're walking around like you're made of diamonds.
Oh, I feel like I'm clubbing right now. I don't know if a 53-year-old white guy is allowed to say that.
You're good, man. You look like you're 32.
Oh, thank you. Well, you probably recognize that voice, that song. It's so great to catch up with Carl Wolf. Carl Wolf here for the Ottawa Lebanese Festival. What a great, amazing career you've had so far, right?
Incredible.
What, you got your 4th Juno Award nomination, right? With that tune?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, number 4 with Getaway.
Yeah, 6 SOCAN awards, but 4th Juno, yes.
And My Heart Beats Arabic is exploding.
Yep.
I think it was, 100,000 views around there is last time I looked?
Well, several things. I mean, we were 1.7 million on TikTok, 108,000 probably on YouTube.
Okay.
And then I just put out a crazy viral stupid video. You know, TikTok, man. It's at 3.8 million.
Was that you playing the drums with the guy punching the window?
The window, absolutely. It's hashtag guy punching window. Yeah, that's
I love it. I love it. So let's first of all talk. I mean, we're going to get to the Lebanese Festival, and we're so thankful that you keep coming back to this community, and we'll get to that in a moment. But for people that don't realize, you know, your career and your background, and where did everything get started for you, Carl?
Wow. So born in Beirut, Lebanon, raised in Dubai, left this because of the civil war when I was 3 years old, graduated high school there. And then once I came to Canada in 1995, that's when I started auditioning to different, you know, because it wasn't something realistic as you know, with Middle Eastern parents, it's always like, oh, lawyer, doctor, whatever,
right.
You know. So I was like, no, man, music is my thing, you know. They're like, you're never going to make money on that, you know. I started producing Star Academy, so I was producing and songwriting for them. I wrote the first single on there, which is like a Canadian Idol, but in Quebec. It sold 500,000 albums, 500,000 albums, and I did the other one, the second installment of it, 300,000 albums. I was doing so well as a producer-songwriter. I'm like, okay, now it's time for me to do my own solo career, and Africa just took over the world, and
amazing.
Here we are.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. We spoke to George Hanna on the show, President, CEO of Gabriel Pizza. What a great family, first of all. A great success story, speaking of success stories. And, when I told him how excited I was to see you back, you and I probably haven't seen each other in about 5 years or so. And the first thing George said to me was, I remember when Carl came to the Ottawa Lebanese Festival, he parked across the street. He walked across the street with his backpack on. He said, hey, I'm Carl. Here I am. And here you are all these years later.
Wow.
I mean, why this festival? What attracted you to this festival?
Man, so I'm Lebanese. My parents are Lebanese. It means a lot to me that I was surprised when I came to Canada and I found out there was a Lebanese festival. I didn't know that, our kind were celebrated anywhere. So it was really nice to see. As you know, Lebanon has a lot of its own issues, corruption, whatever's going on, civil wars, etc. So we've all, fled all over the world. There's people in Brazil and you name it. We're all over the world. So it's nice to see that we still sort of keep some kind of cultural heritage, and we share that with the people, because it's not. A lot of people think, when they think of the media, Middle Eastern people are sort of bad, and there's a lot of bad things going on.
Yeah.
It's nice to change minds and hearts, and I think I'd like to be part of helping change that, even for the youth.
For sure.
So I tried to infuse, my Middle Eastern heritage in my music. That was very important for me, even though it was very niche. Maybe it wouldn't play on radio. There was a lot of risk behind that, but you know what? I owe a lot of it to Dean Cameron, who was the president of EMI Records in Canada. He passed away, unfortunately, but he was one of the first ones to tell me, Carl, let's release Yalla Habibi as a single and on radio. And I was like, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? He's like, you know what can go wrong? We either sink with the ship or we just fly. It's better to be authentic in who you are. And he had a good feeling, and it went #1 on iTunes. It was crazy. It was like unheard of.
I love stories. It reminds me of, Richie Valens, when he wanted to do La Bamba. I remember his manager saying to him, like, you can't do that song.
Right.
You're nuts. It's not going to get on the radio, and then it becomes a hit. And it's the same thing. I think people forget how open-minded the majority of people. I think social media is kind of ruining it for us a little bit. But the majority of people are open-minded, progressive people. They welcome, different cultures. And another thing that I have always respected you a great deal for Carl is how much the interaction you have with fans. It's always been such an important part of who you are. I mean, you see that at the festival, but now at least, and that's the good side of social media, you continue to do that. Tell me about that relationship with your fans.
Absolutely. I mean, during the pandemic, that was a really tough time. We didn't have any concerts to do anymore, no events. It was really tough. So I had to figure out, how do I stay connected with the fans? What do we do? Gary Vee was one of the few people who Gary Vee and Chris Fade from Virgin Radio Dubai told me, Carl, get on TikTok. You need to get on TikTok. It's crazy. It's this platform that just, you can simply do a video and just connect with millions of people at the same time. And they were right. I mean, now I've got 500,000 followers, 500,000 on there, where I literally just produce live for a 1-minute thing, and everyone goes crazy for it. I'm blown away. I found my little thing there, and that does help when we release the single as well. So the same song that I'm producing live, if it works and it goes viral, we sort of release it, and it's our marketing and promo. We don't even need a record company at this point, sort of.
Yeah, and again, I there's the dark side of social media, and then you have stories like this that show you that there are a lot of fun and good things that are happening. My heart beats Arabic. Yeah. Whenever I see a video that you do, I always just imagine, how much fun do you have putting together videos like this?
It's so much fun, man. The thing is, so these are all my babies. These are all my creations.
Yeah.
I pretty much direct most of my music videos in my career. It's my excuse to travel. It's like, okay, I don't like traveling without work. I find it like I'm sort of missing out on progressing in life and just taking a vacation. It's kind of like George Costanza, taking a vacation from a vacation. No, man, because my life is fun and like, it's like a vacation sort of. I'm just doing what I love.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I create these music video ideas, and I travel to different countries around the world. And Dubai is one of the places I grew up, and it's become so incredible, that place. So there's so much to show. My new song, My Heart Beats in Arabic, actually shows two sides of Dubai. The lavish, big money, big spender thing that everybody is aware of, but there's also a traditional sort of heritage, family style thing, and I wanted to show both sides of Dubai, and I think we capture that.
Yeah, you do a great job.
Yeah,
I love all your video. Every time I see that Carl is putting out a video, I'm probably one of the first ones to click on YouTube to check it out. Tell me about the song in general. I mean, I think the inspiration is obviously is obvious to most, but why is this song so important to you, Carl?
The song, pretty much, I think what the song does for me is it encompasses everything that I have been feeling for the longest time here in Canada. I'm this Middle Eastern guy in North America. I'm very East meets West. But my heart beats in Arabic, meaning, I don't want to lose my culture and my heritage, even though my future, let's say I have kids in the future, they're going to be raised here, right? So I think that's one thing that's really important to me. My heart does beat in Arabic, and the cool thing is it's a pun, obviously, because the beat the rhythm is in Arabic, so it kind of worked out.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. What can people expect? You're going to be performing at the Ottawa Lebanese Festival. What for imagine there's our listeners, they've never seen Carl Wolf perform live before. What can they expect from you?
Man, just a bunch of energy, a bunch of hits. So I'm playing all the classics. I know sometimes artists, they don't play the songs that people love because they're sick of them because they're so old, but I'm not that old. Calm down, Carl. But there are classics like Africa, Yalla Habibi, Amateur Love, Ghetto Love. So I've got several, and I'm playing all of them. And the energy is wild. It's crazy. It's fun. Come down. The food is incredible. The people are so sweet and nice.
Agreed.
And you'll smell like garlic, but who cares? You live
Everyone
once.
will. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Right? Yeah, exactly. What's in the future coming up? What are you doing this summer and moving into the rest of the year?
So big things going on. So everybody knows Akon, and he hit me up the other day to join him at his show, and he approached me to produce and help him produce the next album. So I remixed his next single, which is coming out next Thursday, featuring me. So really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, he's an icon. He's incredible. He had huge hits, Grammy winner. So I'm lucky to be part of that team.
Well, listen, I love you, man. This community loves you, and I'm talking about beyond the Lebanese community here in Ottawa. We're so thankful and grateful that you keep coming back every year, and really appreciate you joining us here today on City News. And I'll see you tomorrow on Daytime. I get 2 days of Carl Wolf on Rogers TV.
Gosh,
I love it. So Carl will be live with us tomorrow on Rogers TV between 2 and 3 p.m. We're doing a live show tomorrow on Rogers TV, and enjoy your stay here in Ottawa. I know you're going to visit family in Montreal, so enjoy family. I know that's such a big part, and you're going to love it. I know you will.
It's going to be fun, and then you know what? The weather is holding up, so we're going to have such a good time tonight.
Loving it.
Let's
All right,
go.
Carl Wolf, ladies and gentlemen. There he is. Carl Wolf. You can catch him tonight at the Ottawa Lebanese Festival, of course, running until Sunday. They've got something for everybody. Don't forget, they've got that shuttle that's running as well. So if you're trying to figure out how to park down there, you can park at Canada Post. Take the shuttle there. Enjoy the best food you're going to find in the entire city, and of course, the best entertainment with Carl Wolf. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Behold Emily Carr, painter, about to encounter the force that will consume her life.
How tightly they sealed their secrets from me, humble and pleading before the great trees, awaiting the invitation from the Spirit to come meet me halfway. Nothing is still now, everything is alive. At last, I knew I must see through the eye of the totem itself, the mythic eye of the forest.
Seldom able to live by her brush, before she died in 1945, Emily Carr was in the first rank of Canadian painters.
This is my country. What I want to express is here, and I love it. Amen.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam off for a couple of weeks. Big thanks to Carl, actually, for coming in studio. And a reminder, Carl will be on Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV tomorrow. between 2 and 3 p.m. I believe he's a second guest on the show, so looking forward to catching up with him. Yet again, we're going to be giving away some tickets very shortly to the Kemptville Live Music Festival, so keep your ears open for that. But first, an important announcement by Premier Doug Ford yesterday. Made the announcement at CHEO. An exciting announcement, of course. I'm not sure I heard anyone more excited than CHEO President and CEO Alex Munter. Here's what Alex Munter had to say about the announcement.
What you're going to hear about today will represent the single biggest expansion of pediatric healthcare capacity in the province of Ontario's history at one time. That's a big deal. And in the short term, permanently increasing the child and youth health system's capacity will make a world of difference for kids and their families this year, next year, the year after, and for every year to follow. But
I imagine someone even more excited than Alex Munter is my next guest. Emily Grunwald is the president and CEO of Children's Healthcare Canada and the executive director of Pediatric Chairs of Canada. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Derek. It was a great day for Ontario kids.
No kidding. Let's talk about that and why this was so important and why it's a great day for Ontario kids, Emily.
Sure. So we, as I'm sure you've seen and your listeners have experienced, we have a really small healthcare system that serves children and youth across this country and as well in Ontario. This was a historic investment, both in terms of the magnitude of dollars invested in our children's health system, but also to the fact that it is in addition to their base budget. So this isn't just one-time funding. This is funding that we can rely on for years to come and gives us the opportunity to create new programs and services, to recruit a highly specialized workforce, and really right-size our healthcare system for Ontario's kids.
Yeah, well said, Emily, about, the fact that this isn't a one-time. This is an additional $330 million a year into pediatric health services. You mentioned some of the sort of those initiatives for, hospitals right across Ontario. Let's delve into those a little bit more. When it comes to staffing and hiring, is there any targeted positions in the industry that you would be looking at?
That's a great question. I think right across the continuum of care, so not only our children's hospitals, but also community hospitals, children's mental health, community-based development services. We are experiencing shortages across all those sectors, but also across all the different professions that serve children. The other unique thing is we can't just, a nurse is not a nurse is not a nurse. Nurses, physicians, occupational therapists, surgeons who care for children have highly specialized training. And so it is a really unique workforce that we're looking to recruit to support the children's health services in this province and indeed across the country. And I would say that, around the province, you're going to see lots of demand for physicians, for our pediatric nurses, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers. Really, it is across the board that we are experiencing the shortages.
We've seen here at CHEO, emergency departments that are over capacity. I am sure it's the same across Ontario. Will this help relieve some of that, Emily?
Absolutely. So not only will we have, hopefully, in the short to medium term, a larger workforce to support those children in critical care, but we'll also start to see improvements in, for example, wait times for surgical procedures, scheduled consultation appointments, better access to some of the mental health resources. So lots of trickle-down impacts. Of course, that emergency department is the front door for care for many children and youth, not only in Ottawa, but also across the province. So we'll hope that this will improve their access in a timely fashion.
Yeah, a couple of things that stand out to me, and I'm sure to our listeners as well, if they've looked at some of these initiatives. Two of them that come to mind to me are the rapid access clinics, and then also looking into 8 new youth wellness hubs. Can you tell me what those two look like? Do you have any information on what that might look like?
I don't have the specifics specifics in terms of what CHEO or how CHEO will use the resources that are coming this way. But absolutely, I think we've all seen the impacts of the pandemic, especially on children's mental health. In Ontario, we have over 30,000 kids on a wait list for community-based mental health services. Some of those kids are waiting over 2 years for access to services. So that's a real area of focus that we're hoping we can make some measurable differences in with a sustained investment like this.
Due to the pandemic, I know that there's a backlog, when it comes to immunization in particular. Do you think that this sort of funding will help alleviate some of that backlog, some of that catch up?
Well, you know what? I think across the country, we need to make a plan as it reflects children's healthcare and access to healthcare services. I think you and I have talked in the past about how Canada is falling further and further behind in terms of our children's health outcomes. And of course, access to routine vaccinations is a piece of that, but so much, there are so many other factors as well. And so, Ontario government yesterday showed tremendous leadership to say, we are making children in this province a priority. We're investing and we're earmarking funds specifically for their health care. So we're hoping to see across the country, other jurisdictions, other premiers follow suit to make children a priority. What we're hoping for with the federal government is for them to agree status quo is not an option for Canada's kids. And we can do better collectively as a country. We saw the federal government invest $2 billion in February to address what they referred to as the pediatric crisis, which emerged last fall when we saw just a really awful viral season and very long waits, unacceptable waits for care in our children's hospitals and community hospitals. So I think collectively, this is a call to action to say we can and must do better. And the Ontario government stepped up to the plate to make a really meaningful investment for Ontario kids.
I love hearing the excitement in your voice, Emily. Really appreciate you joining us again today. Thanks so much for this great interview, great conversation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's Emily Grunwald. She is the president and CEO of Children's Healthcare Canada and executive director of Pediatric Chairs of Canada. Again, Ontario investing an additional $330 million a year into pediatric health services to help connect children and youth to more convenient and high quality care. As promised, we're giving away some tickets. That's right. The Kemptville Live Music Festival returning. It kicks off today. You can find out the full festival lineup at KemptvilleLiveMusicFestival.com. Some of the great acts include Colin James, Blue Rodeo, and the fantastic Melissa Etheridge. You can win a pair of tickets to Saturday, July 22nd, featuring Melissa Etheridge and Don Tyler Watson, among others. All you have to do is give us a call at 613-750-1310. 750-1310. We are going to take caller number 9 for this Saturday, featuring Melissa Etheridge. 613-750-1310. We'll announce the winner after your news. This is Derek Page filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
That he fell. Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Beer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
Hi, I'm Paula Roy, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back into my kitchen for another season of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. My approach to food is pretty straightforward. Fancy is fine, but when you're in a time crunch or have a really hungry and patient family to feed, I say simple recipes made with wholesome ingredients that you probably have on hand are the best. And that's exactly what you'll find on Paula Roy's Favorite Foods on Rogers TV.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 20th. Good morning. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester. Right now, 25 degrees, mostly cloudy in Ottawa, feeling more like 31. Smiths Falls right now, it's 25. Here's what's making news right now. Lots of rain on the way for Ottawa and the Valley. Environment Canada is saying that 30 to 50 millimeters of rain is expected, and that rain starts tonight and will continue into tomorrow. Some areas could see more than 50 millimeters, and the weather agency is saying that flooding also possible in lower lying areas, but the rain is expected to taper off by tomorrow night. The light rail still down for another day, but OC Transpo reassuring passengers that they will be putting more R1 replacement buses that will run between Tunney's and Blair to help alleviate with the backlog. And the Minister of Health making an announcement today, Sylvia Jones, saying that millions of dollars will be going into reducing wait times in emergency departments.
We are investing an additional $44 million to continue to reduce wait times in emergency departments across Ontario, helping 165 high-volume emergency departments like the Ottawa Hospital, and also this year, smaller emergency departments who face unique pressures in their local communities will be included.
She says that $44 million will be going into 165 emergency departments to reduce those wait times. Now, the recent ER closures came at the Carlton Place District Memorial about 3 times so far this month. City News Time, it's 11:32. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kester for news anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. As you probably know already, but I'll repeat it. Sam is off for a couple of weeks. Derek Fage here, host of Daytime Ottawa on Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. We just had that call. Caller number 9 to win those tickets to see Melissa Etheridge, Don Tyler Watson, and much more at the Kempville Live Music Festival. Greg is our winner. Big congratulations to you, Greg. Thanks so much for calling in. And I know you're thinking to yourself, darn, I missed it. I wasn't caller 9. Don't worry. We're giving away tickets again tomorrow for Saturday's show. So be sure to listen in between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. We'll give away those tickets. And a reminder as well, our good friend Rob Snow on Wake Up with Rob Snow. He is also giving away tickets to the Kempville Live Music Festival. You can go and see Blue Rodeo. He's got tickets to see Blue Rodeo, which I believe is on the Friday. You can find out all the information, full festival lineup, and to buy tickets if you miss out on our free tickets at KempvilleLiveMusicFestival.com. Well, we just shared the great news, right? Ontario investing an additional $330 million a year into pediatric health services. There's the good news side of our healthcare system, and then there's the bad news side. And a new nursing survey finds Ontario is at risk of experiencing greater loss of care. This, according to the Registered Practical Nurses Association of Ontario, ongoing staff shortages, increased workloads, eroding nursing pride and driving nurses from the front lines and the profession itself. I am joined by Diane Martin, who is the CEO of WeRPN. Welcome to the show, Diane. Thanks for taking the time this morning.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me.
Let's talk about, I just mentioned, some of the issues, but maybe you can expand upon those issues for us, Diane.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since the very beginning of the pandemic, we have done a yearly survey to see the trends in nursing, to see what direction we're heading in and where we need to fix things. And honestly, we really thought that by this point, we would have sorted out the terrible situation that was happening. But what we have found is that there is either no improvement or a worsening of the things that are happening. For example, nurses have been really clear in telling us that they are witnessing worsening patient care. This year's results show us that 91% of nurses say that they are witnessing that. 83% are seeing increased wait times. 70% says it's gotten harder for patients to get access to the necessary care they need, and that they personally have experienced major workload increases over the past few years. This is the third year that they are reporting a yearly increase in their workload, and it's now their workload problems are now higher than they were even at the height of the pandemic.
So what steps would you like the government to address? What is at the top of the list for you and those that you represent?
I think that the what's needed kind of falls into a couple of categories. First of all, if the government could legislate manageable workloads, and in particular a nurse-to-patient ratio that must be met, I think that would help ensure that people like you and I, if we get sick, will receive care that we can trust in. But also we have to make sure that this exodus of nurses, which nurses, our survey showed, is not improving. We have to make sure that we incentivize nurses with, growth opportunities, appropriate professional compensation, of course, and we have to make sure that it becomes a profession. It's been so damaged over the past few years, but it becomes a profession that people see like, engineering or accounting or rewarding,
right,
in the ways that those professions are, and that's one of the most significant things we've lost. We have to guard against inefficiencies and privatization. Millions of dollars that were intended for staffing are now in the pockets of people who run privatized staffing agencies. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we turn the ship around, and I'm telling you, we have not done it yet.
How much privatization, Diane, have we seen just in the last 2 years, or from your experience?
So from my perspective, my focus on privatization is less in the privatized hospitals or centers to do certain procedures, although that's really important to look at. Mm-hmm. I look at privatized access to staffing, and we are seeing more than I thought we would ever see. But once you start moving, and nurses can't be blamed for saying, hey, I've had enough, I'm going to go where I can control my workload.
Yeah, of course.
This is not a problem with nurses.
Yeah.
But when we look at the massive amounts of profit that organizations are being forced to pay just to get nurses in their door, we know that it's time for the government to move in and say, we're not going to privatize staffing. In fact, we're going to insist that staffing be permanent staffing within an organization.
You mentioned legislation when it comes to manageable workloads. I wonder, the cynic in me is wondering, maybe the reluctance to do that is because we have such a staffing shortage that they can't possibly legislate manageable workloads. Am I right in that?
So, you know what? That would be a challenge for sure. You're not wrong, but it would go a distance to stop what has happened, which is the normalization of working short-staffed. So it used to be that every once in a while, maybe twice a year, I would walk into a unit and they'd say, we're short a person today. And we'd all look at each other like, I don't know, let's do our best. And it was a real rare occurrence. And now it's every day. And it's become the normal, and we just accept it. Right. So legislation that would provide some sort of incentive for organizations by it being legislated to make sure that that doesn't become the norm, that they put every effort they can to seeing that happen.
Let's go back and expand a little bit more on retention and growth opportunities. What is missing? Obviously dollars and cents, with, going from, nurses, frontline workers and so on being heroes during the pandemic to ignoring the fact that, prices of everything has gone up. Right? And this is a very difficult job, and it's very difficult to get people into the system, to educate them, and then, once they are, to retain them. So what retention and growth opportunities would you like to see?
So, back in my mother's day, she was a nurse. People went into nursing because that was one of the couple professions you went into. And even in my day, it was the trailblazers that chose, I've been a nurse for 40 years, so it was the trailblazers that chose to go into the non-traditional professions. And we had to work so hard to take nursing into a place where people realized they could go and be trailblazers, professionals, highly respected. Their families would be proud to say, my daughter's a nurse. And then in a very limited length of time, when you say you can't have any more than 1% raise, you cannot negotiate your own wages. We will give you a workload that will crush you, and these sorts of things, being a primarily female profession, and some primarily male professions didn't face these things. We have lost so much footing in this being seen as a strong, powerful choice for our young people that they'll want to grow in throughout their lives. And for me, that's a massive concern. I had someone ask me the other day, were you angry at your daughter when she chose to become a nurse? And that was a sobering moment for me.
No kidding. We just spoke about a good news story when it comes to healthcare. Ontario investing an additional $330 million a year into pediatric health services. When you see an announcement like that from the provincial government, are you encouraged at all that we're going in the right direction, that we may meet some of these needs that nurses are looking for here in Ontario?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Every single investment that happens from the government that is directed towards improving care, absolutely, nurses welcome all of those. They don't even have to directly impact nurses for us to understand the value of those. So many of the tables these days, though, that make all of those decisions have sort of started to eliminate nurses from those tables. Again, the professionalism piece. But, when I hear those announcements, I absolutely am grateful for every step we're taking to improve patient care. I just think that there is specific nursing activities that need to happen alongside that.
How would you describe the state of the mental health of nurses in this province right now?
We have a lot of questions on our yearly survey about that. And 89%, can you imagine, in a profession, 89% are suffering from mental health struggles right now. 78 have experienced an actual breaking point. 78%. I know my own daughter has struggled significantly. 91% say their daily experiences in the workplace have become more stressful. And my personal observations, and a question that's not on our survey, is that under the pressures of these stresses in the workplace, we have stopped speaking to each other in a respectful and kind manner to make our points of frustration, but rather the cultures as a result of all of these pressures have become actually unpleasant to work in.
I'm not. It's sad to hear that, because, from someone like myself who had complications at birth and who's been in and out of hospitals, and I just recently did a keynote speech in Quebec City to operating room nurses about my experience and how important you are to every single patient that goes in there. And the other thing that really saddened me in reading this report was how many nurses feel like they're working in unsafe conditions as well. To think that a large percentage of nurses are going to work and they feel like they're working in unsafe conditions, that's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, and they share a picture of what that looks like from the patient's eyes as well. And the lack of feeling safe happens both for the patient, of course, our main concern, but also for nurses. The incidence of violence in the workplace against nurses has risen significantly as well, and that's another thing that we found in our survey. So, by the way, nursing faces is one of the most violence experiencing professions right now. And that's hard when you're short-staffed. It's hard on any day. But these are the sorts of things that we need the public to read our report, to get behind us, and really keep in mind in all those key times when you are talking to your local politicians, when you are voting, when you are able to write a letter and give support.
Where can people find this information we're talking about today?
So our report is found on our website, or you can go to the website damagereport.ca. All one word, damagereport.ca.
Excellent.
And we also have, an open letter that you can sign urging the government to restore the healthcare system.
Excellent. Diane, really appreciate the time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Take care. That is Diane Martin, the CEO of WeRPN, of course, part of the Registered Practical Nurses Association of Ontario. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Hi, I'm Meg from Fit Over 50, and I'm here with Fit Finley. I want to invite you to join my upcoming workout, which is focused on upper body and lower body stretches. No equipment is required. All you'll need is a chair. Hope to see you there.
Fit Over 50 with Meg, weekday mornings at 8:30 on Rogers TV.
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today, I helped someone understand new government supports.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Anything gonna get along without you when you're gone. It took me for everything that I had and kicked me out of my own. I am it. I'm satisfied. How long can you stand the heat? Anytime I have a razor, still trying to beat. Look out. Another one bites the dust.
Oh boy. Oh boy. One of my favorite all-time songs and one of my favorite all-time bands. Another one, Bites the Dust by Queen. Today we're talking upbeat songs, depressing lyrics with none other than publicist and music commentator Eric Alper. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. So, do you know what this song is about?
I knew you were going to ask this, and I look at your list, Eric, and I'm actually ashamed that I don't realize how depressing some of these lyrics might actually be in these upbeat songs. I don't really know a heck of a lot.
And sometimes you don't want to know, right? Like
Maybe.
Sometimes it's just better that you sing whatever lyrics you think they're singing, or even if you have the right ones, to not think about it too much. And that's the really fun, awful thing about music, is that sometimes it just hits you right in the heart, and then you look at the lyrics, and then you're like, wait a second, why am I singing about this? This is like absolutely wild. But this song, not only was it supposed to be the theme song for Rocky III, but they couldn't get Sylvester Stallone couldn't get the rights to it. So he got a local band to come up with a song instead, and then that band Survivor ended up coming up with Eye of the Tiger instead. But this song, it's so hard to understand, though, because Freddie Mercury, he sings it in a way that it's almost next to impossible to understand the lyrics.
Yeah.
It's really about this guy, Steve, who walks warily down the street, his brim pulled way down low, ain't no sound but the sound of his feet, machine gun ready to go. And so it's actually about a shooter that's taking revenge out on somebody.
Unbelievable. Like I just looked up the lyrics, and I have not been singing the correct lyrics, I think, for quite some time now. This next one, let's just play it first of all. We'll play a little bit of this next one here. No, we don't have it? Oh, okay, sorry, we don't have it. Again, this one, I'm surprised, and I love this song. I love actually both the full German version and the mixed version, and that's 99 Red Balloons. Tell me about this.
Yeah, this was Nana's first and really only hit in North America during the mid-1980s. And although that it's kind of a little bit difficult to understand if you don't know German, but there's actually the English version of it. But it's really about the dreams of the German people that were lost after World War II. The 99 balloons represent the 99 dreams that each person had, and at the end of the song, Nana just wants to prove that German people did actually have dreams like everybody else by finding just one balloon, which is the dream, and she does find this one balloon and lets it go. So it's a lot of really depressing underlines about anybody. It doesn't have to be necessarily the German people, but anybody that has dreams but have to let those dreams go because of, for whatever reason, family life, economic circumstance, racial circumstance, and the equality that everybody has to deal with on a daily basis.
The next song is, as far as many people are concerned, is perhaps one of the, if not one of the greatest songs ever written. and that is Hotel California. It always ends up, it seems, right, Eric, in the top 10 of greatest songs of all time. Right?
Yeah, and absolutely. When it comes to the guitar solo, too, that's has to be right up there as well. And everybody keeps asking Glenn Fry and Don Henley from the group what this song is about, and they've kind of been a little bit vague about it, but the one thing is for sure, though, it's really all about the dark underbelly of the American dream, and it's about the excess in America in which the band knew something about: the sex, the drugs, the travel, the rock and roll. So from the outside, it looks all amazing being a rock star, but then you get to the darkness of it all, and that's what this song is about, is that you can check in anytime you want, but you can never leave.
Next up, my favorite band of all time, the Beatles and Revolution number 9, Revolution 9.
Yeah, this was found on the White Album, or the Beatles self-titled album. It's the longest song that they've ever done. It runs just about 8 minutes and 15 seconds, and it took longer than any other song for the group to actually compose. And it's not really a song. It's mostly just an audio mishmash of the guys sounding like they're completely tripped out and out of their minds on it. And this was the song that helped fuel those Paul McCartney is dead rumors by, if you play the song backwards, it says "Turn Me On, Dead Man." And this was also the song that Charles Manson used as fuel for telling the court and police that basically, the Beatles told them to go stab people, along with Helter Skelter from the same album.
I almost get chills thinking of that, just when they start going, number 9, number 9, number 9.
Oh, it's scary.
It's so scary.
I was a kid when my sister put on this album, and I loved the Beatles. I didn't know anything about them when I was a kid, but this song frightened me. And anytime that my sister wanted to get me out of her room, she would just play this song. It would be like kid repellent.
She found the song. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit here because I don't want to run out of time. One that I guess was my only question on the list, not the depressing lyrics, but upbeat, and that is Stairway to Heaven. I guess I never thought of it necessarily as feeling like an upbeat song.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven is an interesting one because the lyrics always take a little bit of a wild turn. But in the beginning of the song, it's really about a woman who gets a lot of money. She's accumulating wealth only to find out the hard way that her life has absolutely no meaning and will not get her into heaven without giving something back, without doing something meaningful. So she's buying her stairway to heaven, but she never ends up getting there.
I'll go to our final song, which we do have a clip on. Do we want to play the clip first, Aaron? Yeah? Let's play the clip first, and then we'll chat about this song. This is an interesting one. Everybody knows this song. I mean, Bruce Springsteen, what an incredible artist, still touring to this day. But I think a lot of people who don't listen to the lyrics probably think this is celebrating the USA, and it couldn't be any further from the truth, right?
For the 39th straight year, this song, after July 4th, made it into the iTunes and Billboard Hot 100 because it was filled with streams and spins and views of people who thought that this was an absolute full-on patriotic anthem, but it's not. It could be nothing from the truth. In fact, this song is about the veterans coming home from Vietnam, and while other war heroes were welcomed when they got home with parades and ticker tape and all of this stuff, those that came back from Vietnam were mostly ignored when they returned back to America, and many suffered post-traumatic stress disorder and other ailments that the U.S. government essentially forgot about them, and that's what this song is about. But that makes Bruce Springsteen so great, is that anthem in the chorus makes you really proud of your country, and that's what he wants but he also said that it's okay to be critical of your own country and very prideful at the same time. That's what being America or being a Canadian is that you get the right to slam your country while loving it in the first place.
Yeah, agreed. And at least I'm proud of myself that I knew Born in the USA was not a celebration. So I got one out of these at least, Eric. Eric, I always love chatting with you. I'm a huge music fan and really enjoy the time. And I guess you'll be back next week. We'll chat again next week.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Matt. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care. That is publicist and music commentator Eric Alper. And I know I say it each and every time, but I really encourage you to follow him on social media, Twitter in particular. You can find him at that Eric Alper. He just asks such great, he comes up with some amazing questions that he throws out. One of his latest, what's an album that blew your mind the first time you heard it? Access Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix, by the way, Eric, comes to mind for me. And he just has questions like that and a lot of interesting trivia when it comes to music. I highly recommend you follow him on social media. We'll be back with more. We've got Lunch with Derek coming up. We'll tell you about some of the topics coming up in just a moment. Derek Fage here, filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV and listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and rogerstv.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to rogerstv.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smith Falls and the Valley. Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 20th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista right now. 24 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 29. It's 25 in Smith Falls. Here's what's making news right now.
City News traffic alert.
Now, the intersection of Saint Laurent Boulevard and Tremblay is currently closed because of a serious collision. Ottawa police asking drivers if they're heading that way to find a different route if they can. Ramp closures around that area also closed for now. Now again, the Saint Laurent Boulevard and Tremblay intersection closed because of a serious collision. Stay with City News for the latest on any developing details. Now the Confederation line remains shut down once again today. With the details, here's City News reporter Chris Curries.
We still don't know when the line will reopen because inspections into the axles are continuing. At Last Word Wednesday afternoon, there were 9 trains given a clean bill of health, but still many more to go. As for this morning's commute, if you're going to brave the replacement buses, the city says there will be additional ones, 36 in total instead of 28, which will hopefully cut down on some wait times. But back to the axles. Jacques Racine with ATU 279, the bus operators union, says OC Transpo basically flying blind.
They're literally just in a corner of the warehouse, stacked up in a corner, because they do not know what's happening with these axles and bearings.
He goes on to say that a number of their staff are getting ready for layoffs, but it should be management at OC Transpo that gets the axe. Chris Curry, City News.
Now, Canada's Minister of Climate Change urging Canadians to be on alert as heat and dry conditions continue to wreak havoc across the world this summer. City's Caitlin Lee now with the details.
887 fires currently burning across the country, 554 out of control. BC, the biggest hotspot right now, with some fresh evacuation orders going out in the southeastern part of the province. And the fires took a tragic turn this week. 2 firefighters losing their lives, one in BC, one in Northwest Territories. Wildfire smoke also contributed to the death of a boy in BC. In Europe, hot and dry conditions sparking wildfire danger in Greece, threatening the capital of Athens. Firefighting aircraft and ground crews from other countries moving in to help. A heat wave in southern Europe has kept temps sizzling for the past 2 weeks. Rome reached a record-breaking temperature of 41.8 degrees Tuesday. In the U.S., again, more temperature records smashed. The heat is also impacting our oceans. Surface temperatures on the North Atlantic, the warmest since records began in 1850. Now, this is the advice from Canada's climate change minister.
We would ask that Canadians pay close attention to the warnings and direction of authorities. Fire bans, travel restrictions, and air quality warnings are in effect in many parts of the country. And as my colleague, Minister Duclos, has emphasized in his recent updates, no amount of exposure to fire smoke is safe.
More than 40% of the world's oceans in a marine heat wave. Reporting live, Caitlin Lee, City News.
And I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista for news. Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
The gentleman is correct. It is the Sam Laprade Show, but without the Sam part of it. Sam will be back. Let me just check the date now. I don't even have that in front of me. Sam will be back on August 1st, I guess. Yeah, August 1st. Looking forward to that. And I believe I'm taking over for Rob Snow starting that week. So a double dose of Derek. Oh, my goodness, you poor people. Hey, it is Lunch with Derek today with Sam being off and pulling up a chair at the table. We have the former Chief of Staff to Mayor O'Brien and longtime political commentator Walter Robinson. Good afternoon, Walter.
Good afternoon, Derek.
Great to have you here. Also, Chair of Summa Strategies and Managing Director of Abacus Data, Tim Powers. Good afternoon, Tim. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you and Walter. Walter and I, you know this, Derek, have known each other since the Brian Mulroney government.
Oh, my goodness.
And we're only in our 20s, so you figure out how that works.
I'll try to figure out that math off the air, yeah. We got some interesting topics, a lot of talk around the NCC these days. We've got the Queen Elizabeth driveway controversy, of course, Mayor Mark Sutcliffe coming out with some controversial comments about that, and City Councillor not happy about him weighing in on that. And then we have the Gatineau Park parkways as well that's starting to get a lot of exposure. There's currently a petition, by the way, with over 8,400 signatures. I'm just going to look it up now. They've got 8,482 signatures, a petition to reopen all of those and restore access to the Champlain Parkway, the Gatineau Parkway, and the Fortune Parkway in Gatineau Park to pre pre-pandemic levels, and people can find that petition at change.org. We actually spoke both on Wake Up with Rob Snow and on the Talkback Hour with David Smith, with the gentleman who started the petition. Walter, thoughts on the closure of both of these, the QED and the Gatineau Parkways?
I'm going to be diplomatic, and I have one word for it: stupid.
Okay. Very diplomatic, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I got off the fence. I don't know the Gatineau side as much, but I understand the reasoning behind it. Now, there are people at the NCC who believe they're doing good in this specific issue. I've seen the Queen Elizabeth Parkway at different times of the day in the last 2 weeks or so, and closing it for traffic and for foot traffic and bikes. It is very empty most of the time during regular business hours. And in the midst of a light rail shutdown, construction, where I live between the river and the parkway and the canal now, there's lots of we're like Montreal. We have two seasons, hockey and construction. And we have all this going on. And we're trying to revitalize a downtown core with hybrid work and make sure that ecosystem finds its way forward. We are making it very difficult for people to get around this city. We have half the people in the offices at most, and it's taking twice as long to get places. Yesterday, it took me 22 minutes to come from Maine and Springhorse to 90 Elgin. It should take 9 or 10 minutes driving. And I like to walk, and I like to take light rail, but I can't at the moment. So I really think Mark Sucklow's comments controversial, and people talking about we need to have a vibrant downtown. This is not helping demonstrably.
Tim, the argument from the NCC when it comes to that Queen Elizabeth driveway is that they say, it was always meant as a scenic route and not as a commuter road. What do you make of that argument?
Well, hurry the hell up and fix all the roads that are supposed to be commuter roads. I mean, Walter used stupid. Let me use a metaphor. It means the same thing. Asinine. Like, it is just so friggin' annoying, Derek. I live in Westboro. I have a son who is very athletic, and we go all over town. I probably spend more time in traffic than I do anywhere else, and certainly not alone in all of that. How that is helping address the climate problem, if you are limiting the roads for people to use and they're in traffic for a longer period of time, maybe there's some emissions issues that are happening there. And then never mind the holistic approach to health. People are more angry, they're more stressed and agitated because of all of this. I think there have to be better ways to get a bigger benefit. Give us some more conservation areas. Do something like that. So I'm with the mayor on this. I know the intentions are good of Toby Nussbaum and others at the NCC, but the action that they've taken is just not helpful.
Yeah, and when it comes to the Gatineau Parkways, so if you're not aware, the schedule from May 1st, it started May 1st, 2021, and current schedule that started May 7, 2022. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, closed to motor vehicles, only active use all day. Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, active use until 1 p.m., and then motor vehicle access from 1 p.m. To 30 minutes after sunset. And the argument that this petition is making is it's led to inequitable and non-inclusive access that doesn't respect the needs of the diverse majority of park users and Canadian society. And they go on to say it's worth mentioning that the electrical scooters that the NCC provided from P2, it would take 8.5 hours nonstop to get from P2 to Champlain Lookout and back, which is unrealistic. So they're saying for people with disabilities, seniors, families with young children that want to go and actually enjoy the conservation areas, they're restricting it too much. What do you make of that, Walter?
I think there are many times in a week, and I'm trying to ask families and people with disabilities who work, families who work. Again, it's a question of we have a set work week that makes our economy churn, that makes the National Capital Region churn. And there must be more common sense ways to facilitate access to ensure that the majority, the overwhelming majority, or everyone has that opportunity to appreciate Gatineau Park. And Gatineau Park in that area is a gem. We're the only city in North America where you can drive 7 minutes outside of downtown and be in absolute wilderness. The only city in North America. So it is a jewel and a gem. But there have to be better ways here. And these roads, these byways and thoroughfares, they are, as much as many of them, whether on this side or in Gatineau Park, people do use them to move around. So I just don't see the logic.
Tim, thoughts on that?
Well, if you're looking for violent disagreements, you're not going to get it today, Derek. We use the again. God, this is weird. I agree with everything Walter says. Although that's usually the case most often. But I think we react in the moment to, this will be good and this will make sense because people will see the wisdom of it, and it's a small thing that we can do. Are there other small things that we can do that do not create such inconvenience and go against what we're trying to achieve? We want, and Walter knows this, he's an active guy, I'm an active guy, we want more people to be active. We want more people to be as healthy as they possibly can be within their circumstances. But you have to create space and accessibility for them to do it. So maybe, as it relates to Gatineau Park, you're not doing that. And shutting down the Queen Elizabeth Drive, it's not an area that needs to be shut down because you can be active on those awesome paths right by the canal that have been there for years. You don't need to shut down the road to get people out walking. They can use the paths.
Okay, we've got more topics. I'm going to take a break, gentlemen. Stick around because I'll be back with Tim and Walter in just a moment. We've got some other topics to tackle. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
In countries surrounding Sudan and across parts of Eastern Africa, millions of people are at risk of losing everything, even their lives. Conflict, climate, and hunger are forcing people from their homes and causing families and communities to struggle for survival. The Humanitarian Coalition is present, providing food, water, shelter, and medical care. Please donate today at together.ca, and your donation will be matched by the Government of Canada. That's together.ca.
You know the story. When the RCAF said Mach 2 fighter, 2-place 1,000-mile range, the British said it was impossible. The Yanks tried twice and failed. They said, you're dreaming. We said, fine, we'll build it right here in Toronto. And now you guys, my guys, are saying that it can't be done, that they were right?
Now that's the rocket that we used to get the model up to speed, and then the onboard sensors tell us that...
Come on, baby.
Damn it! But we did it according to your specs. The specs have changed.
We did it.
Arrow 201. You're cleared for takeoff.
We did it!
Although the government canceled the project and destroyed the prototypes, the Avro Arrow remains for Canada a world benchmark in aerospace achievement.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here filling in for Sam. It's Lunch with Derek today. Joining us, former Chief of Staff to Mayor O'Brien and longtime political commentator Walter Robinson, and Chair of Summa Strategies and Managing Director of Abacus Data, Tim Powers. I think you guys will agree on this next topic as well. I'm going to have to find something you may disagree on at some point. We know that Doug Ford was asked about the LRT situation during his stop in Ottawa yesterday. He called the situation a mess, blaming the former mayor and council. Do you think we should be worried at all, Tim, that the province may suddenly become reluctant to properly fund this struggling public transit system? I mean, they do give us a lot of money, and we still, 2 years later, seem to have not solved an issue with these ball bearings and these bearings and axles.
Who could blame them in some ways if that were the case? The thing that I took from the Premier's comments wasn't that obvious comment, and I'm not saying you're pointing out the obvious, Derek. I would never undermine you.
No, of course
as a
not.
host. Robin, both Walter and I have been in your chair before in different places. But I would say the thing that I took about the Premier's commitment was the praise he leveled on Mark Sutcliffe about the way that mayor works and how he pointed the finger at the former mayor, Jim Watson, for failure. The way Doug Ford seems to work is that if he likes you and thinks he can work with you, he will on any project. So the fact that Mayor Sutcliffe is in the Premier's apparent good books at the moment and is addressing the problem in which the Premier, in a manner which the Premier seems to think is effective, may give some hope that if this thing is salvageable, that Ontario will be there.
Speaking of hope, Walter, any hope or confidence that the city, Alstom, RTG, can finally get to the bottom of this issue? It's 2 years, right? It looks like the same problem we saw 2 years ago.
I'll make you a prediction. One, I believe I agree with Tim, violent agreement that I think the province will be there and the feds will be there as well, to be fair, as major partners in this project. I'll make you a prediction that I think the Alstom rolling stock cars are done. And part of this transition will be to get new cars. We basically, and we've done this in helicopter procurement. We have a horrible record of this in Canada. We just can't take an off-the-shelf technology and put a Canadian flag on it. We've got to meander and jerry-rig it and stuff, and then you try and do something that is untested, unproven, and the meantime, the engineering things, meantime to repair and meantime to failure, they're both really, really bad, as we have seen. There's another issue that I think still needs to be explored. Is there a class that we can constitute in the courts for the former mayor, the former city manager, some of the senior Alstom, LRT, RTG people, and transit people for what I would label gross incompetence bordering on criminal negligence or negligence, if nothing else. I mean, when you stop the system because you want to check every axle because you could have the same thing that leads to the derailments, the two derailments we had in the past. Mm-hmm. There has to be something more than we had an inquiry and here's the recommendations to improve things. People still need to be held accountable for this. And I'm looking for some enterprising legal minds to figure out if this can be done.
You wonder what's in the contract, Tim, that's stopping us from saying to, the manufacturer of the trains, the track, whatever it is, to say, like, if somebody comes to my house and does a renovation and it's garbage and it doesn't work, they return to my house and they repair it for free because we have a contract that they had to put in place something that is going to work. What the heck must be in that contract holding us back by saying tear up the tracks and put new ones on, or take away the trains and give us new ones?
Well, I think it's the break clause, and I don't mean the train breaks. There must be a break clause in there that makes it very expensive to break up. And the other calculation that they're looking at, I'm sure the city solicitors are looking at it, is, all right, we know they'll fight it, so how much is it going to cost us? So we'll enforce the break clause. They will refuse. We'll stop paying. There'll be a big fight. The system won't move. It's going to cost X, Y, and Z. I'm sure that I hope that analysis has been done, but I suspect that what it is, the break clause and the cost of the legal fight and what that means to Ottawa taxpayers.
You're making too much
Derek,
sense, Tim.
Derek, if I just add on that.
Please.
And this is the irony. We stopped, and I was part of an administration that stopped the original cuckoo choo-choo. We ended up paying Siemens and others about $35 million of Ottawa taxpayers' monies because the last light rail, the first one under former Mayor Shirelli in that administration, went north-south, and it went to pick up votes and land development kind of profits, not people. So we're going east-west. We have the tunnel. That's great. But I remember when the mayor ran in the 2006 campaign, he said, in every great city, your trip around the city starts with an escalator ride downstairs. I'm just back from Amsterdam. We're heading to Portugal. I've been in many of the world's greatest cities, and mass transit works, and it works well.
Yep.
In Ottawa, it's an adventure/nightmare. And this is a really bad mark on the city, and it needs to be fixed, and I'm going to come back. I think the rolling stock and or some improvements to the track is what it's going to take, because we're in the sunk cost fallacy. $2 billion to $3.5 billion already sunk in. Yeah. You can't abandon that. You need to fix it.
Agreed. Let's move on to another topic. Almost half of Canadians surveyed by Leger, apologies to Tim and Abacus, by Leger said they think airlines aren't reliable when it comes to their departures and arrivals. And Walter, you just mentioned you've been traveling a lot. 6 in 10 Canadians who have taken at least one flight in the past year say they've experienced flight delays. I mean, I just don't ever see this being fixed, guys. I just look at the population of this country, and we sometimes we compare ourselves to the U.S. Oh, look at how reliable they are, and they have these discount airlines. They're 10 times the population. I just don't know. Do we have enough people that's going to make this ever reliable? Walter, I'll throw to you first.
I'll be quick in terms of being respectful of time and Tim's contribution as well. I'm glad that Leger's survey has a compelling grasp of the patently obvious to tell us. That's really good work.
Well played.
Maybe Abacus would have said, we don't need to do a survey. We already know the answer. With all due respect to David Coletto and his team. So I think there's two issues, and it relates to transit, right? We have 40 million people. 90% of us are an hour away from the 49th parallel, more or less. We will never have rail infrastructure, light rail, because we're not, especially in the east, we have these things called the Great Lakes, which is why we've never had high-speed rail, because you have to fly. If you're trying to get to the megapolis, which is that eastern seaboard, you're going to fly or drive. And to get in other places, you need to take a plane to get to Europe, to get to Asia, to get to the Caribbean, and beyond. So it is an issue of capacity, and it's also an issue to be fair to the airlines and to be fair to the airports. It is a complicated ecosystem, and we've kind of run this just in time and the gate charges and stuff. So if you get a storm, if things go wrong, it is a domino effect. And when you don't have as many options, we have two major characters that are kind of running a duopoly, kind of Air Canada East, WestJet kind of Toronto West, and then a few other, the ultra low-cost carriers that will not survive. And as I would like to say, there are cheaper flights, but then you have to fly them. Good luck for you and good luck with that. So I just think it's always going to be a problem. Weather issues are making it hard. And it's a new reality in a post-COVID world where we're still dealing with anger travel and people making up. The volumes will sort themselves out, but I think it's another year or year and a half.
Tim, over to you.
Well, thank you for triggering me. First of all, so wild screams are just a reflection of the recent travel that I've had to do or like to do to my home province of Newfoundland and Labrador. If you want to fly to Atlantic Canada, be prepared for a delay. The quick story, Derek, is 2 weeks ago I was home and then also had to traverse to Toronto. 8 flights, 6 delayed. The 3 of them over 2.5 hours. The other 3 were 45 minutes, which is like a walk in the park. last weekend. Home again. Flight gets canceled in the morning. No options for my son or I for 3 or 4 days. Not an acceptable outcome for me. A travel agent that Walter and I knew, I called. He helped me out. I flew on one of those aforementioned discount airlines, 4 hours late, 40 minutes to collect the bags, got back, but was ready to commit a crime. Thankfully, I did not.
Hey, Tim, you missed. We need the flyers back from EPA, the old EPA.
Oh, yeah, they landed anything, Walter.
Walter, I'll give you the last word because I know you wanted to give a quick plug to your AI for healthcare Twitter handle and brain gain.
Yeah, so what we're seeing AI has been around before, ChatGPT and generative AI. And one of the most amazing places where I think artificial intelligence can really be helpful is in healthcare. It's a huge economic opportunity, but more importantly, it's a huge healthcare, patient empowerment, and patient centricity opportunity. My Twitter handle is AI_4_healthcare. And I have a Brain Gain newsletter on LinkedIn that I started publishing. I have a background in healthcare policy and pharmaceutical, but I'm writing from an accessible level to try and increase patient literacy, consumer literacy, media literacy as what does this mean for me? We have enough AI experts out there debating the end of the world or not.
Right.
But hopefully people will subscribe. And it's interesting content. I just wrote one on the future of AI in cancer care. It is a game changer.
Looking forward to reading that one. Walter, really appreciate the time. Tim, you as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me.
Thank you.
Bye,
guys.
Take care, Tim. Take care, Derek.
Take care. Thank you, guys. That's Walter Robinson, former Chief of Staff to Mayor O'Brien and longtime political commentator. Tim Powers, Chair of Summa Strategies and Managing Director of Abacus Data. My apologies for triggering you both when it comes to talking about Canada's airlines and long waits. We'll be back with more. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Every year, dozens of Canadians are killed or seriously injured because they take risks around railway tracks. Talk to your loved ones about rail safety. Visit stoptracktragedies.ca.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Hi, can I take your order? Hello?
Oh, hey. Wait, what was the question?
Let me guess. One driving high combo, extra baked?
No. Could I get a burger with a side of fries?
Think you're a better driver when you're high? Think again. Smoking weed affects reaction time and concentration. A message from Mad Canada.
Hey everybody, my name is Karen. I'm here with my best friends Shane and Monique. Join us on Rogers TV for Fitness Faction. Every week we're going to take you through a full body workout. We've got strength training, we've got cardio, we've got HIIT. Ladies, let's get back into it.
I think we've got 10 more skaters. Let's go.
Rogers TV presents a series of original creative stories animated by storytellers for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers.
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Number one for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It's Thursday, July 20th. Good afternoon. I'm Perushka Gopal-Kista. Right now, 24 degrees in Ottawa, mostly cloudy, feeling more like 29. Smiths Falls, it's 25. Here's what's making news right now. Now, breaking news from Alberta. The Transportation Safety Board saying a helicopter involved in a firefighting operation has crashed in northwestern Alberta. The agency says the investigators are heading to the scene. A spokesman says an emergency locator transmitter signal was received yesterday around 6 p.m. Now, the RCMP, they were not immediately available to comment or to confirm the condition of those that were on board, but stay with City News for the latest on that developing story. Now, over in Toronto, their city council has passed a motion declaring gender-based violence and intimate partner violence as an epidemic in the city. They're joining 30 other Ontario municipalities that have similar declarations, including Ottawa, Peel Region, and the Renfrew County. The declaration urging the provincial and federal governments to make the same move, which Ontario recently stated that it would not do so. And the Minister of Health making an announcement earlier today, Sylvia Jones, saying that millions of dollars will go into reducing wait times in emergency departments.
We are investing an additional $44 million to continue to reduce wait times in emergency departments across Ontario, helping 165 high-volume emergency departments like the Ottawa Hospital, and also this year, smaller emergency departments who face unique pressures in their local communities will be included.
This also comes as the emergency department at the Carlton Place District Memorial Hospital was closed for a couple of times throughout the month over this month. City News time, it's 12:34. I'm Pirushka Gopal-Kista for news. Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Business Lunch on City News, brought to you by the Ottawa Business Journal.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here for Rogers TV, filling in for Sam. It is time for the Business Lunch, and what we love about this segment is we get to highlight some of the amazing businesses in and around the Ottawa region, places to get away. And you know what? Whenever I see somebody has a yurt available, especially a Mongolian yurt, it piques my interest immediately. I am joined by Aaron Markle, co-owner of Hammond Hill, joining us here on the show this afternoon. Good afternoon, Aaron.
Hey, Derek. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Fantastic. The sun is shining. It's always a good day to be in the outdoor business.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a summer it's been for you guys so far. Let's talk about, the idea behind this as co-owner and you and your team. What was the inspiration behind this, Aaron?
Well, we saw a 62-acre parcel of land that was adjacent to the Hammond Golf Course, and we tried to figure out what we could do with it that would make a difference. And I mean that because I have kids, and I see what's coming. I'm a construction guy, and I see the waste that we create as an industry. I thought, well, what about an eco campground? And when we really looked at the structure that was required, the messaging that came from these kind of conversations, we realized, to go. People are dying to be back outside. They're looking forward to that kind of nature, the retreat. And if you can surround them with inspirational thoughts and the messaging behind how it was built and why it was built, that really everyone can get behind.
Yeah, and I was on your website earlier today and just looking at what you offer and what's around, and that the fact that you offer both summer and hot weather and cold weather activities is fantastic. Let's first of all talk about the camping and cabin opportunities that you've created. I mentioned those yurts, but you offer much more than that. Walk us through.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Mongolian yurts. We have 3 of them, and they're actually handmade by one family in Mongolia. They're all hand-painted, handmade, and they're all held up with just friction and rope. They're an amazing offering. 20 feet in diameter. They sleep.
Oh, I think we just lost you there. You're breaking up on us.
Oh, you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, we got you back. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, so we built it in kind of a village idea so that people can kind of get together. We have nature trails that run through the property. We have a wedding chapel. I have my license to marry people. So we have the wedding chapel. And then the most interesting thing we're offering now is we're building Canada's first tiny home community. So We'll have about 20 beautiful tiny homes situated on their own plot of land, in water and lakes, and they're designed to sleep for with Murphy beds, which everyone thinks are really cool when they pull out of the wall.
Nice.
And really just high-end amenities. Each of them have a shower, a little gas stove, beautiful barbecues and sitting areas. So we kind of tried to look at all the different accommodations we could offer, and we also have traditional camping, and we have some jupes. We have 6 jupes. Where the
what is a jupe?
Yeah, so jupe is a great question because no one's really seen them. We're the only campground outside of the U.S. to have them. And they were put together by a couple of really smart people that kind of joined forces from like SpaceX and Tesla, and they tried to find a way to build a tent, but in a really high glamour glamping style. So the ceiling heights are like 12 feet high. They run off of solar power. So at night you have a fan running. They have beautiful beds. And they're just kind of a great way to stay outside but still have that kind of security and really fun beds and really comfortable pillow type atmosphere.
I'm just looking at them on your website right now. They are so cool looking.
Yeah.
I got to stay in a jupe, man. This is amazing.
And what's great about them is as good as they look during the day, at night with the LEDs, they're actually stunning. And I don't say that about many things, but they are a beautiful thing. They have to be seen at night. And when you consider it's all being run off of solar, again, it just ties right into our messaging, right? That we're not impacting, we're not polluting, we're taking nature's bounty and putting it.
Oh, you're breaking up on us again there. Aaron, yeah, I think we might have lost him this time. We'll try to get you back on. I'm just on the website, so while we try to get Aaron back on, I should mention they've got these really cute cabins as well. One is called Le Louisbourg cabin that they offer, and the Vieux Quebec, and it's just really beautiful. Like, and the whole area that they have set up with these cabins, and you've got a little fire pit there available as well. Aaron, are you back with us? Oh, no, I don't think so. He's not back with us. Sorry about that. Well, he's out in the wilderness. So you know what? These kind of things can certainly happen. Another thing they offer, too, is what's called Trapper Hangout. So during the winter, they call this sort of a perfect stop on your snowmobile adventure. The Trapper Hangout, they say it's functional while staying cozy and comfortable. You got storage for your boots and your suits and helmets. That's all built in. The floors are made to handle any snow that might be tracked in as well. The cabin is adjacent to the trail, so you just pull up your sled and you got like a warm bed waiting for you. And I think we have Aaron back. Aaron, are you there?
Yeah, apologies for that. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, you're in the wilderness. These things happen. I tell
you.
I've talked about a couple of offerings. Let's talk about the common areas that you have available. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so we're attached to the Broken Stick Brewing Company, so we're one of the first licensed offerings for a campground. So we do have beer, which is like the adult play area.
Okay.
We have kids play areas, we have beach volleyball, we have soccer, we have swimming, we have games areas. So we kind of tried to build it so that everyone that came had something to do. We have like adult Jenga, which I think is just super fun, and
nice.
It's entertaining, and it's good old-fashioned outside fun.
Let's talk about wintertime, what you offer in the winter. I mean, obviously, sometimes when it comes to camping and businesses like yourself, it becomes seasonal and it makes it really difficult for a business. But you guys also provide a really cool winter experience.
Yeah, we're really proud of that. We're immediately adjacent to the snowmobile trail, so we'll sometimes in the winter have 300 or 400 snowmobiles kind of come through the area. The beer garden is always open, and when we set out to do this, we wanted to make sure, in particular, our tiny homes were year-round offerings. So we'll take advantage of our amazing lakes. We'll have skating areas. We do cross-country snowshoe. We do cross-country skiing. We really want to make it somewhere where all the campgrounds shut down, because they do, and now we can stay open and offer people the ability to have a fire and do fun things outside and stay in that nature type feel.
I haven't gone and looked at it yet, but I saw that you have an events portion on your website. So do you put on a variety of events then throughout the year?
Yeah, so right now we're featuring, we call it Stars It's every Saturday from 7 till 10, and it's open to the public. We want people to come out, see the campsite, get to listen to great live music, buy a beer if you'd like. We've had events like live wrestling. We've had shows. We're going to be doing movies at night. Concerts will be a really big thing for us moving forward. We're trying to plan out a big country venue concert for the fall. So we have the space. We have the accommodations. So if people do want to have maybe one or two mini beverages, they have somewhere safe to stay. And I think it makes a lot of sense. 62 acres is a lot of space. So we can do a lot of great things. And obviously with the weddings, we can fill up a wedding venue for 100 to 200 people without any problems.
Very cool. Have you had a wedding up there yet, Aaron?
Yeah, so I personally married 3 people myself last year, and I think we have about another 6 scheduled for this year. So it's a little bit of an off-grid wedding scenario with an outdoor chapel that is built into the forest. All the chairs, we bought a sawmill last year, so all the chairs are made from wood from the property. Nice. It's all mulched down the aisle. We bring people up in golf carts because we have the golf course next door. And it's designed to be something it's not for everyone, but it's a beautiful venue, and we've had really great response from it so far.
I love it. Beyond weddings, are you open to having other events? I'm just thinking, like if a business is listening right now, and what greater team building than going out, into the wilderness and enjoying, and having these mix of accommodations that people can do. Are you looking at expanding to do many different types of events?
Yeah, so we have a full-time event planner, and corporate retreats is obviously a great thing. In particular, we add in the golf course, right? So you can kind of go back, do all your high-level business stuff, and why not play 9 holes at the end of the day? There's a wood-fired pizza oven at the golf course, so play some golf, grab a nice piece of pizza, and what a great way to end a big business meeting. It's not a traditional setting, and you get to be outside and really enjoy nature.
I mentioned those trapper hangouts too, which again, you said right beside the snowmobile trail. So again, what a great opportunity! You got your cross country skiing, snowshoeing. You guys have done a wonderful job, Aaron. Really appreciate the time today, and congratulations to you and your team. What a unique experience.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Derek.
All right, take care. That's Aaron Markle, co-owner of Hammond Hill. Just a very cool experience. 62 acres, as he said. And, it's not far. It's just about 20 minutes east of Ottawa. As he describes it, he's, sustainable getaway, families, couples, events, weddings, affordable options too. I think that's one of the great things about what they're doing over there is you can do anything, from camping to yurts, and he's got Airstreams and the Jupes and Pioneer cabins, and now they've added those tiny homes as well. So, a lot of us that perhaps are looking at, trying to get away and having a great experience with family and friends or colleagues, and you're thinking to yourself, with inflation and the price of groceries and everything, can we find something affordable? This is something affordable, and it's right in our own backyard. So again, congratulations to them. What another great success story here from the Ottawa region. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We got lots more coming up. In our final segment, we're going to be talking about a new memoir. It is called The Butterfly Cage. Our next guest is a deaf educator, writer, passionate activist on behalf of deaf and hard of hearing children and adults. We'll share that memoir and Rachel's experience and background with you after the break. This is Derek Fage filling in on the Sam Laprade Show. You're watching on Rogers TV, listening on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
I'm Derek Fage, and I encourage you to join me each and every weekday at 2 p.m. for an edition of Daytime Ottawa. We will share with you some fabulous stories, inspirational stories, and of course, recipes from local chefs. We'll tell you about some wonderful musical performances, introduce you to local businesses and charities, and so much more. Join us here on Daytime Ottawa at 2 p.m. weekdays with repeats at 6 and 11 p.m.
It was our 35th anniversary. To celebrate, we were on our way to Mama Rosie's, where we had our first date. That's when we heard coming from the radio. So we stopped and listened. It helped us get to safety. So when I think of our anniversary, because now we have even more to celebrate.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too. Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On City News,
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Welcome back to the Sam Laprade Show. Derek Fage here, filling in for Sam. Sam's off for a couple of weeks. I'll be back tomorrow and next week as well. My next guest is a deaf educator, writer. She's a passionate activist on behalf of deaf and hard of hearing children and adults. She has a brand new memoir. It is called The Butterfly Cage. Rachel Zaman joining us along with her interpreter. Good afternoon, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Let's start off.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. Sorry, I cut you off there. Rachel, let's talk about your story. Tell me about your personal story and some of your challenges.
Well, I became deaf at 10, so I already have speech, so you're hearing my voice, even though I'm relying on an interpreter to understand you. The challenges, I would say, are being in between both the deaf and the hearing world. Because I have speech, rather than that being a benefit, it's also a detriment to me. Because I'm in between the two worlds and cultures. And when I became a teacher, I saw a lot of incredibly dysfunctional things happening in the educational system for deaf children. So that's why I wrote my book.
Tell me about your viewpoints on educating deaf children and you know what approaches that you've seen and perhaps what you obviously felt that the right approach wasn't being taken, right?
Yeah, exactly. In this country, and I would say in most countries, there's an idea, a mindset among administrators and staff in general in hearing schools that deaf children should be taught speech, they should be assimilated into regular classes, and they should be sort of encouraged to pass as hearing. And most of our deaf children attend that kind of school, and the results are that they have no sense of deaf identity, no pride in who they are, no positive connection to the deaf community, and the worst thing of all is that they have no language, because they weren't taught ASL, American Sign Language, or whatever country the sign language of that country is withheld from them, because speaking and pretending to be hearing is prioritized. If that makes sense to you?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely it does. And, and part of your book is sharing different stories, right, of individual students and those, classroom scenes. I wonder if you can share one of those stories with us, Rachel, because, you've made this obviously something that you're so incredibly passionate about, that you made it, your purpose in life is to help children that are trying to navigate through, the education system.
Yes, absolutely. So I have so many stories in my heart, in my memories, and in the book. It's hard to know which to choose, but I will choose one very quick one.
Okay.
There was a girl who, she was at the school where I taught, and she was deaf, and her parents had three deaf children, three deaf and hard of hearing children. And I had a support group. I started a support group to celebrate deaf culture and ASL, and for my younger students and the older students who are deaf and hard of hearing in the school to come together and have a moment where they could all be together. And all the kids were very excited about this group.
Right.
And it was a beautiful group. And we were happy and excited, and the students were just bursting with pride in their language and culture. And the parents of this girl, instead of understanding that this was a very positive thing for their children, there were two of their kids were in the school, they became threatened by it, by the fact that instead of trying to urge their children to pretend to be hearing and to act as hearing as possible, as quote-unquote normal as possible, instead of that, I was encouraging them to embrace the deaf side of them, and never to have any negativity towards the hearing world, but simply to be proud of the deaf side of them, because in my experience, deaf culture has a tremendous amount to offer us. So the parents forbid me to talk to their child anymore.
Wow.
They went to the administrator and they said, we don't want that teacher going near our child again, because she's using the word deaf, and we want our child to call herself hard of hearing. And we don't want them to have any contact anymore. And it was a brutal thing, and in fact, it ended up ruining the support group completely, because the girl was very charismatic and wonderful and popular, and all the other students were confused and started dropping out of it.
What a shame.
And it was a shocking thing for me, as somebody who really loved that girl.
That's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. I mean, because these children were having such a wonderful experience.
Yes, exactly. Very sad that they saw it as a harmful thing when in reality it could only do good.
Rachel, I just have to get to the news here, but before I let you go, love to know how people can get a copy of the book. Where can they find a copy?
Okay, it's on Amazon, it's on Bookshop, Barnes & Noble.